Taking Action by Nathan Alexander, Tara Littrell, and Abby Miller. Today we're going to talk about 4 things that will help us take action as teachers. First will be how to foster community. Second will be how to make that a democratic community, a democratic classroom. Third, we'll talk about characteristics of being a culturally responsive teacher. And last, we'll talk about educating the whole child.
By definition, a community is a group of people who work with one another, building a sense of trust, care, and support. This means that in our classrooms, part of our job is to provide opportunities and structures by which students can help and support one another. It also means that we provide explicit instruction and support so that students learn how to do this. Here are 5 everyday strategies that work to foster community. 1. Create opportunities for group decision making. 2. Democratize the space. 3. Use multidimensional group project and the composition of the groups. 4. Vary protocols for classroom sharing. And 5. Create conflict around issues. John Dewey said that, "I believe that the only true education comes through the stimulation of the child's powers by the demand of the social situations in which he finds himself. Through these demands, he is stimulated to act as a member of a unity, to emerge from his original narratives of action and feelings, and to conceive of himself from the standpoint of the welfare of the group to which he belongs." Simply put, Dewey was saying, education is a social process. Education is growth. Education is not a preparation, but is life itself. In a constructivist classroom, it's very important for children to feel like the class is theirs, and not just the teacher's. This adds to a feeling of responsibility and helps children learn to take care of things. Students need to not only take initiative for their own learning and construction of the world around them, but to also participate in collaboration and to further enhance learning. The opportunity to make decisions is a responsibility. It means students have an obligation to participate in figuring out how things are going to be done in the classroom rather than leaving everything to the teacher. Fostering a community where there is trust and comfort is key when creating a democratic classroom. In my experience, some students do not voice their opinions and ideas because they do not feel trust in the classroom and thus do not want to risk humiliation. As Curtis said in her article, "The safety that comes from community development is more a safety from within, a feeling students get when they have control over their lives and know that they can solve problems."
Now I've talked a little about the democratic community, we'll start talking about how to create the democratic community. Here are some main points that I found. In a democratic community, in a democratic classroom rather, there's a cause larger than self. This feeds right into democracy, because in order to work on a cause greater than self, you must think of others first. So classmates will start thinking about their peers before themselves. Students will start realizing some of their selfish behavior and work to improve because they want more for their class as a whole. Students and teachers must make decisions together and feel responsible for one another. We need to give children a chance to take responsibility. This means giving them opportunities to make decisions and holding them accountable to these decisions. These decisions should be based on not only themselves but others. All voices are heard. This can mean voting, or it can mean listening to the less popular opinion. Everyone needs to know they do indeed have a say in every matter that arises. It is possible for individual students to choose what they do best. Effective schools, Dewey argues, must begin with the interests of the child, using them as a resource to develop problems for the child to grapple with, something that requires constant and careful planning on the part of a teacher. Teachers need to be willing to do new things that children want to do. New things must not only be accepted, but encouraged, and ideas of students must be embraced. When you're creating a democratic classroom or environment, you need to have common values. A common set of values for the classroom must be things like common goals or common rules. All these rules must not only be made, but also willfully adopted by everyone. All the kids have to buy into what you're saying. If you just tell them to do something, it's not going to have as much of an impact. Now, this leads right into culturally responsive teaching. What makes a teacher culturally responsive and why? Some of the characteristics of a culturally responsive teacher are here. Understanding how learners construct knowledge. In the article, The Culturally Constructive Teacher, this is described in these words. From this perspective, learners must use their prior knowledge and beliefs to make sense of new ideas and experiences they encounter in school. A central role of the culturally and linguistically responsive teacher is to support students' learning by helping them build bridges between what they already know and about the topic and what they are about to learn. We also need to learn about students' lives. As a teacher, it is essential to get outside of our only school role. Yes, kids know you teach them every day, but you become much more relatable when you show up in other parts of their lives as well. Being socially, culturally conscious. This goes into teachers knowing that every student is different and has different experiences that make them see things in different ways. It isn't fair to a student or any person to expect them to see everything in one certain way. This leads into diversity, holding affirming views about diversity. It may seem cliche, but everyone is special. As a culturally responsive teacher, it is important that each student knows what they bring to the table is important, not only to you, but also to everyone in the classroom. This leads into advocating for all students. We need to give all students a voice, even if it's not popular. The last one we have is to use appropriate instructional strategies. Kids need to be taught in the right way. This can mean different things for different kids. It may not be a way or a strategy that you're used to as a teacher, but if it means teaching a kid a little better, then it's worth it.
When we look at the idea of a whole child, educators need to know the background of each child so that they can really dig deep into the whole child idea covered. Teaching is an ethical activity. Teachers have an ethical obligation to help students succeed in every way possible. Teachers not only need to know the cultural backgrounds, but the students' prior knowledge to each subject. This brings up No Child Left Behind. Teachers have so much pressure to improve test scores, and No Child Left Behind is made to help with this pressure. And knowing the students' backgrounds will help them release a little bit of this stress. No Child Left Behind has many criticisms, though. The first one is the cost of it. The expenses for educators to get the resources is very high. Another one, it is very hard to understand and really get every kid on board with the No Child Left Behind concept. The next is the unattainable goals that No Child Left Behind creates. It says that 100% or everyone needs to be 100% proficient in math and science, and that's just not a reasonable goal for every kid to reach. No Child Left Behind also fails to ask questions about educational leadership. And they just don't have proper aims of education. The main question is, does this concept of No Child Left Behind really help? Focusing just on the whole just specifically at the whole child idea, educators have to try to make a big effort to cover every aspect of the curriculum. But it's really hard to do this because the time given to teach everything is so limited. For example, fitness is a concern in schools today. Most people don't think that fitness is a subject, but it's very important for young students to have. And the amount of time given to students for these activities is declining. Teachers try to fit fitness into their lessons to make sure that this is part of the whole child to make sure this is a part of the whole child idea, but it's just very difficult to fit this into the curriculum with the amount of time given. One of the most important parts of the whole child idea is to fit in the students' interest into their lessons. One hard subject to fit into the curriculum is art and creativity. Since the curriculum is so strict, it is hard for educators to fit activities like this in. As educators, we need to try and figure out ways to stretch the curriculum so that we are hitting every angle of the child's educational career.